question is, how do you start a day with so much headline news? It's which one to pick. So I had to pick both, or three. A lot of developments that nobody will cover, of course. They don't like covering anything that actually makes a difference, especially when it's good news. Explosion overnight. White House, FBI, CDC have their foundations rocked. And not a word on mainstream media. Not a word. An absolute mega charge levels all three agencies. Silence. Terrifying, isn't it? But kind of not unexpected, as we know how the news doesn't permeate through to we the people very much, at least the news that matters. But you know what, Restricted Republic, that's what we do here. We give you the news that matters. Later on today, over at Restricted Republic, catastrophic error. Couldn't believe when I put the puzzle pieces together on this one. One of the biggest errors in U.S. history was just published. Was just published by none other than Arrow. Now don't worry, I wouldn't bring it up if you couldn't watch it for free, and that you can do at Restricted Republic. By the way, today if you move over, 14 days free on us. That's the platform that gorgeous woman right there, Lisa Haven, and myself created many, many years ago to bring you the news that matters. No sponsors, no interruptions, no commercials, nothing but an endless and limitless catalog of information that you need and that you deserve. Can't even begin to tell you how many videos in each of these categories exist. Everything you've been looking for under one roof, restrictedrepublic.com. To take advantage of that video later today, right now, 14 days for free, simply for subscribing. Plus, go ahead and use discount code INDEPENDENCE, $4 a month for 2 years, plus 14 days for free, because we know once you're there, you'll go nowhere else for your news and matter, and you won't waste your time trying to search through all the headlines that really don't result in a whole lot of anything. If you need a smile today, don't forget, as a thank you, Lisa and I created we'reforkedup.com, our way of escaping, bringing you to dinner with us to put a smile on your face, give you a few laughs. That's we'reforkedup.com. Go there, subscribe. It's absolutely free. We'll only send you a video when a new video publishes, or I will put a link here to our YouTube station. You can feel free to join there also. Here's the full catalog. Again, a ton of laughs, ton of fun. Our thank you to you for all you have done to support us, because the news continues to get crazier and you need to escape it. Because what you're seeing isn't always reality. And that should be no more evident than having the FBI, the CDC, and the White House have their foundations rocked. It is no different than what Julian Assange brought to us a long, long time ago. And what was he punished for? Well, his right to free speech. But now we've had a tremendous victory. How many of you have asked me, Justice, why is there never any good news? Well, it is the news we have to cover. Remember that. There is no good news coming out of the U.S. government. And the only time good news does come in relation to the U.S. government, it's when they lose. And they just did. In a major court battle. In any normal free speech society, this would be front and center, but nonetheless, silence. U.S. State Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit filed September 8th, 2023. State of Missouri, State of Louisiana. Many other plaintiffs in the case, Jim Hoff being one of them, against Joseph R. Biden Jr., Vivek Murthy, Xavier Becerra, Department of Health and Human Services, Anthony Fauci, the defendants. A group of social media users and 2 states allege the numerous federal officials coerced social media platforms into censoring certain social media content in violation of the First Amendment. We agree, but only as to some of the officials. That is the bad news in the story. Not everyone is meant to pay the price. Actually, no one will pay the price, unfortunately. So we affirm in part, reverse in part, vacate the injunction in part, and modify the injunction in part. What is this about? What is this about? For the last few years, at least since the 2020 presidential transition, a group of federal officials have been in regular contact with nearly every major American social media company about the spread of what they deem misinformation. In their concern, those officials hailing from the White House, the CDC, the FBI, and a few other agencies urged the platforms to remove disfavored content and accounts from their sites, things that the government didn't agree with. This went on through the COVID-19 pandemic and the 2022 congressional election and continues to today. Enter this lawsuit. The plaintiffs, 3 doctors, a news website, a healthcare activist in 2 states, had posts and stories removed or downgraded by platforms because the government didn't agree with it. Their content touched on a host of divisive topics like COVID-19, pandemics, vaccines, election fraud, and Hunter Biden laptop story. The plaintiffs maintained that although the platform stifled their speech, the government officials were the ones pulling the strings. They coerced, threatened, and pressured the social media platforms to censor them through private communication and legal threats. So, they sued the officials. First Amendment violations and asked the district court to enjoin the officials' conduct. In response, the officials argued that they only sought to mitigate the hazards of online information. We were just trying to be better than we the people. Their free speech is dangerous. It's uneducated. For they do not know the crux of their argument as we do, the all-knowing and elite society, a.k.a. the government. That doesn't end so well. In reaching the decision, they were granted a preliminary injunction relief in reviewing the conduct of several federal offices, but only enjoining the White House, the Surgeon General, the CDC, the FBI, the NIAID, and the CISA, Department of State. We briefly review per the district's court order and the records those officials' conduct. What do they conclude? Censorship is just not an attack on free speech. Brownstone Institute. It is a coordinated effort against you, the citizen, and your right to information. It aims to perpetrate power by silencing dissent and destroying opposition. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals reaffirmed this principle on Friday night when it ruled that the White House, the FBI, and the CDC violated the First Amendment by encouraging and coercing social media companies to suppress your free speech. The logic is directly applicable here. The individual plaintiffs adduced extensive evidence that social media platforms have engaged in censorship of certain viewpoints on key issues, and that the government has engaged in a years-long pressure campaign designed to ensure that the censorship aligned with the government's preferred viewpoints. Welcome to communism. The harm that radiates from such conduct extends far beyond the plaintiffs. It impacts every social media user. Did you find this on CNN or MSNBC? Of course you didn't. The story doesn't exist. This upholding of this preliminary injunction, one of the most important First Amendment victories in modern history, not a word. Their opinion outlines the federal bureaucracy's effort to silence critics of the White House COVID policies and to deny Americans the right to hear opposing viewpoints, efforts that described as unrelating pressure that likely had the intended result of suppressing millions of protected free speech posts by American citizens, while government officials told the press that their content moderation policies were public health initiatives. The legal case reveals that the true motive is to deny you the right to know their crimes, discuss their incompetence, or protest their policies. Continues through to today. Rights are continuing to be stripped away today. Julian Assange and the war against you, boy. A WikiLeaks a day keeps tyrants at bay. Well, they didn't agree with that. You know why he's in prison? The context of why he's in prison? I hope you do. Because there's many players in this act, many players in this theater. Robert Flaherty took center stage. The Presidential Digital Strategy Office. The man, things apparently became tense between the White House and Facebook after that culminated in Flaherty's July 15, 2021 email to Facebook in which he states, "Are you guys blanking serious? I want an answer on what happened here, and I want it today." Now, I could go through the monumental amount of Flaherty within this document. But you don't have enough time. You don't have enough time for the digital director and how many social media platforms he contacted, what he asked them to do, who he asked them to ban, what he asked to be suppressed, how he controlled everything, how he manipulated every single one of these companies. You know why? Again, you don't have time. I just start marking the document here just to begin with. Would you like me to keep going? I had to stop because I ran out of time because I wanted to get to another story today. But I'm sure if we go down, Flaherty responded, look, it keeps going. 6 minutes later, alleging Facebook provides incorrect information. I could probably keep going down another 52 pages of how many times the White House, oh, there it is, Flaherty again, keep going. The disinformation dozen, they weren't silenced enough. I've never, in our history, should this ever have been allowed, but it wasn't, at least now. The Fifth Circuit explained no injunction prevents the Biden administration from exercising its own free speech. The government can speak for itself, which includes the right to advocate and defend its own policies, but the case was never about the White House's public statements. It concerns attacks on the essence of democracy, democratic government. Even though I hate the term, we have to use it in this context. We are a constitutional republic. If the ruling class can't control your information, then you don't live in a free country. Missouri vs. Biden reveals how the government launched an unprecedented censorship campaign under the pretext of public health. The Supreme Court has rarely been faced with a coordinated campaign of this magnitude, orchestrated by federal officials that jeopardized a fundamental aspect of American life. This should be front and center, headlines blaring everywhere. Plaintiffs allege that defendants, through public pressure campaigns, private meetings, and other forms of direct communication regarding the defendants described as disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation, have concluded with and or coerced social media platforms to suppress disfavored speakers, viewpoints, and content on social media. Plaintiffs also allege the suppression constitutes government action, and this is a violation of the plaintiff's freedom of speech under the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law representing an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. Simple concept. Not for this government, it's not simple. This decision is not just a victory for plaintiffs. It is part of a necessary process to come to terms with the lies, the despotism, and the lawless evil that engulfed our country beginning in March of 2020. True, the injunction does not go far enough. It leaves too many agencies untouched. It has too many exceptions and loopholes. It also does nothing to compensate the victims or repair the egregious damage for the control of the public mind over the last 3.5 years. But in times when we are clawing back rights and liberties we once took for granted, it is an excellent beginning. There is much more to do in every area of life. And hence why we, the people, Lisa and I, worked day and night with our money stripped away because of what we couldn't publish. But we dug deep. We built an entire platform. That's not inexpensive, folks, and it's not inexpensive to maintain. Wish it was. We wanted to do it without sponsors, which made it even more difficult. If the right sponsor came along, who knows? Maybe. Maybe there's somebody who really wants to support Patriots, and if there is out there, please have them contact us. We could use it. But we did that so that you can get the news in the format you deserve, unfiltered and uncensored. Please get there today. Please help support us so we can continue to bring you these messages. RestrictedRepublic.com. Discount code INDEPENDENCE. $4 a month for 2 years, 14 days for free. This conclusion, this verdict, this injunction, relief, shows you that everything we've been saying is 100% true. And now the court agrees with us. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justus Knight, signing out.